Once you've set up your site structure and begun your design, you're going to want to preview how the site is going to look on export or in the browser. Let's explore your preview options. So on my plan view here, I've been clicking into each page and I've designed the various elements, and now I want to preview this site. So up here in the top right, you have a preview button. So let's click preview. Then Muse is going to load an in-app preview of the website itself. There you go. So this is what the website's going to look like in the browser. Now, truthfully, I recommend you never use the in-app preview. Let me jump back to that page on our site. So it was right here. I recommend you preview within your real web browser. And the way that you can do that is to go File and Preview Page in Browser. So if I click that, Muse generates a temporary export of the site, and it's going to load the site in our browser, not in the in-app preview. This gives you a real idea of how the site's going to work. This is loaded in Chrome, rather than loading within the Muse window itself. So as you can see, everything looks great, and the site appears to be working really well. So when I'm working in Muse, I am constantly previewing in the browser. The other option you have is to click File and Preview Site in browser, and that will allow you to jump between all pages of the site. Preview Page in browser just generates that one page for you to look at. Another element you may want to consider is, rather than simply previewing in the browser like I just showed you, you can actually publish this site up to a temporary location on the web. Some of our widgets, such as video widgets, don't operate very well when they're trying to load a file off of your local drive or your hard drive. They want to load the file off a true web server. I'll cover that in just a few minutes. One other aspect I want to show you is when you're previewing your site, you can click File Preview, of course, like I just explained. And you may want to preview the responsiveness. So it's tempting to drag your browser window and go like this. But the reality is that customers are not going to be dragging the browser window like that. Designers do that, but it's pretty rare for your customers. If you want to preview responsive behavior, I recommend using a tool called Google Resizer. And let me just bring it up here. This is the Google Resizer tool. And as you can see, if you enter any URL into this, you'll get an idea of what the site's going to look like on various devices. So if I were to enter the MuseThemes.com website here, you'll see that it loads in various device windows, and we get an idea of how a responsive behavior will look. And there's some toolbars in the top right for previewing different breakpoint sizes and different mobile sizes and that sort of thing. So as great as the built-in preview tools in Muse are, truthfully, I never use them. The final step of creating a site in Muse is the publish process, and that's the fourth option here in the top right. Publishing your site means you're either going to upload it to a web host or you're going to export it to your local drive and do something else with it. Usually that means uploading it manually using FTP software to do so. If I click on the Publish button, there's a little arrow beside it that brings up a drop-down. And you can see in the arrow we have FTP host, we have Business Catalyst, and we have Export as HTML. FTP host can be any host you want, it doesn't matter. Business Catalyst is Adobe's specific hosting platform, and it allows you to upload temporary versions of your site that are fantastic for using as client previews or previewing in-progress versions of your site. And lastly, you have Export as HTML to your hard drive. So let's click Export to Business Catalyst. It tells us that the site is going to link to our Typekit account for fonts. That's fine. Okay, so once Muse has connected to Business Catalyst, it asks you what your site name is going to be. Since this is just a temporary site we're using for previewing, I'm just going to enter temp video site, just like that, and we can click Options. We want to publish to a new site. Everything else is good. Let's click OK. So Muse is going to generate this temporary site and upload your entire site content to the web. Okay, so Muse is done uploading all your files, and that can take a little while depending on how big your site is. And you can see here that the link to our site is a real live link. You can send this out to anybody on the web, and they'll be able to access the temporary version of your website. You'll notice too that the link has .businesscatalyst.com in it. That's Adobe's temporary hosting server. So now that we've toured through the Muse interface and you have an idea of how the Muse design process works, our next few videos will dive into the real tools and options that you'll use often to build your website.